Hello again. Welcome. Hi. We're back. It's been since April that we've done one of these. I'm going to have to make this the very first segment since I'm now introducing it that way. But we are bringing back the Day One Game Pass show, Patreon exclusives forever.
That's right.
They're just for you. For the $6 and above tier, the £5 and above tiers, all of you, forever will have access to all of our Day One Game Pass show. I'm once again joined, of course, by Jon Nico-Clark. How you doing?
I'm doing good, and it's really nice to bring these back because, and I think you and I particularly like doing this stuff because whilst I always love the main podcast show, especially with the energy and the community behind it, sometimes it's nice to actually just talk about video games.
It was that episode we had with
drama.
Ursel.
Yeah, we just talk games for
the first 2 hours, 2.5 hours almost, we're just talking about everything we had played. It was interesting, and it was one of the main things when I was trying to think of what can I do to focus more on the Patreon. It's like, oh yeah, we had a good show where we just talked about games. So here we are again, as people can see, right down there. We're here to talk about Hellblade 2, Senua's Saga, which you reviewed, and I got a full playthrough up of on YouTube. We both absolutely loved it.
Yep.
We weren't in the contingent that were like, the first one was better, because we're not idiots. So
yeah, there's so much to unpack with Hellblade 2, and I think, you know, now looking back on it, we're 6 months later since it released, and I look back, I reread my review and I rewatched it, and I stand by everything that I said. I think if you haven't, and look, dear listener, if you haven't played Hellblade 2 yet, or you think it's not for you, I think it's singularly one of the most impressive interactive experiences. And note the word that I'm using. I'm not necessarily saying video game. It is a video game.
Yeah, it's something you could only make in this medium.
Yeah, like 100%. And I don't think there's anything else like it. I personally feel that it is the pinnacle of its genre. A lot of people kind of chucked this into the walking simulator bucket. You know, and
we know a good walking simulator like what Remains of Edith Finch. This is not that. That is amazing. That is also that's the pinnacle of its actual walking simulator genre. But Hellblade 2 is up at the very top for me for the interactive storytelling experience, because there's way more to do in this game than there is in those types generally.
Yeah, 100%. And it's, you know, it's not wrong that you can whip through this in like, I think 5 hours, maybe something. Maybe
I was
a little
four and a half when I cut out some of the fat from my review. It was about four and a half.
But there's a really unique thing I don't think a lot of people really talked about after launch in that. And, you know, there's a few minor spoilers here. I'm not going to spoil plot particularly, because, you know, if you're listening to this, I urge you to go and play it if you haven't. But I'll touch on some bits and pieces. If you didn't know this, I wouldn't really consider it a spoiler, but it's really unique and a brilliant thing that they've done in that on your first playthrough, the game is narrated by the Furies, I think, if memory serves.
Yeah.
And throughout the game, you'll meet these companions that will go with you on this journey. And when you've completed it, you can play through it again, right? But this time you can choose the male companion to join you and, you know, narrate the game all the way through instead of the Furies. The Furies are still there. These are the inner voices of Senua that are spinning around you and making you feel absolutely crazy. But then you get his perspective of the adventure and what Senua is doing. And then there's a third narrator that you can unlock, and so on and so on and so on. And it's really, really good. Like, I stand by the review, man. I don't think I've played anything else this year that's made my jaw drop to the floor in the way that Hellblade 2 does.
It's got quite a few nominations at the Game Awards, and it's been funny seeing people being like, that one, I forgot it even came out. And it's like, I know, the gaming industry, the gaming coverage industry at large just doesn't play on the platform. It's like we saw Stalker 2 just hit another one we're going to probably talk about today. Stalker 2 just hit, and 50 reviews on PC and like 17 on Xbox. Like, it's just, when a game is only on this platform, it's gonna get overlooked by the people who cover games. I don't think this one got overlooked so much by the people on the platform who play it, though, which has been nice. Like, it is jaw-droppingly good looking. Runs great. Like, obviously it's not targeting a high frame rate. It's a good old going for locked 30 if you want all the bells and whistles and whatnots. Looks amazing on PC as yeah.
As someone with an ultra wide, like, because that is the game's native display, is kind of a cinematic ultra wide. So if you're playing on TV at home, a 16:9 display, you'll get black bars. But on an ultra wide on PC, whew, and at high frame rates, also, whew, it's a thing. It's an incredible game.
And it's one of those ones where it had a reason to try and look that good, because it is trying to make it feel like you are in a real thing really happening that is touching into the supernatural in some ways. Now, is it her craziness that is supernatural, or is it actual things? You know, it's always up for interpretation. I think it's a little more obvious in this game that there is some real stuff happening. Because, like, other people are there and talking about it, but then you get the other perspectives when you're redoing the game, and it's like, what is really happening? And it's
so clever.
It's tough to delve into all of it while remaining fully spoiler free. And this far out, I think you can tinge into things more and tease them a little bit without. But yeah, it is a game that is an amazing once through, and improved as you see the other perspectives on it and the way things are going.
There's nice things as well. Like, my advice to you, if you're the first time you're ever playing it, is to play through it once and just experience it. And for God's sake, play it in the dark. Play it with headphones on. If you don't have headphones, buy some. This is one of those things, you know, when people are like, oh, I need to buy an HD TV for my HD console, and you go out and you do that. This is one of those experiences that has to be experienced in a certain way. And again, I think I mentioned this on the mainline show. I actually had a video game composer reach out to me on social media after the reviews had dropped.
I remember.
And they were like, I just wanted to thank you for your review, because I'm reading lots of others and I don't feel like they've understood the intent, and reading yours, you absolutely unequivocally do. Effectively, I'm paraphrasing. I haven't got the tweet in front of me.
And then he said, you're amazing and I want to marry you and here's $1 million.
Yeah, all of those wonderful things. But honestly, to have someone, you know, frankly, of that stature, from my point of view in the industry,
one of my favorites.
Yeah, comment like that and just say thank you, you know, for that. I was like, well, thanks. But yeah, absolutely, unequivocally, play this with headphones. It has to be done. The way the Furies are recorded, and this is Senua's inner voices, they recorded it using a very, very expensive 3D binaural microphone. So effectively, the microphone looks like a human head, and the sensors are in the ears shapes. So as the actresses are spinning around, you're getting that effect. As if they are around and everywhere, and it is disconcerting to say the least. You know, and as the XboxEra community knows, I'm not a big horror fan, and yet there is a genuine section in this game that is pretty much, if you've ever seen the horror movie The Descent, it is that in video game form. I struggled, but I made it through because the story was so engrossing and fantastic.
And you had an embargo to hit, and you wanted to make it all pretty, so you needed to get it done plenty. I did want
to make it very pretty. But I think the performances all around, from Forgester, the Viking companion that's been stealing your kinsman. We had I think I'm trying to remember his name because I haven't played it in ages. Fargrimmer, who is this kind of more elderly gentleman that's kind of like a father figure in some ways. And man, that whole scene where you go rescue that dude, that fight, holy shit, that was like, I was like, oh man, such a great game. Yeah, go play Hellblade 2, people. It's awesome, and you should definitely put it on your to play list.
I would be shocked if it's one of the ones higher up on the site's overall staff game of the year list, mainly just because of me and you, and maybe Ursel. I don't know who else. Nick would not have played it.
No, Nick's played it.
Oh, he has?
Just skipped everything. I think he's played it. Yeah, he just skipped some cutscenes. he's with us in the oh, I really liked the first one, but the second one sucks. Opinions of like thinking that that's nonsense.
Hmm.
Because in my opinion, from a story perspective, so Hellblade 1 is very much, I thought it dragged on more,
Mhm.
and I think it lost some of its weight because
And
of that.
it
Was
didn't
too long.
have you could tell it didn't have they didn't have a huge budget, but they had a budget. And the first one
Yeah.
was them trying to cobble together what they could in a time where, boy, we want to make something that looks amazing as cheap as possible because we don't have a lot of money. And this one, it's like we've got a good budget, we've got backing of we're owned by a major brand now who are like, hey, go make art. And so we're going to do that, and we're going to build a studio and do all this crazy shit, and it really shows. I had just played through the first one on stream not long before the second one hit, and yeah, the jump between them is astronomical. They are barely similar in the long run when you actually go from one to the other.
Yeah, and if you know, I think that the story in 2 is, it might not be as personal. I think that's a fair comment to make. It's not as personal to Senua, but it is, you know, as someone who loves that kind of period of time and that kind of cross section of supernatural versus, you know, just real world stuff. It's a far grander tale. You know, and the giant battles, because you know the trailers have said that there's giants in it. Are
that was one of the first things they ever showed.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And you know, there are, you can pause the game even during that. Like, there's no any time you can just pause it because it's all real time. There's no like pre-rendered stuff. So you can take photos and spin the camera around and add light sources.
Or just like when you're traveling and it just starts flying into the distance all real time.
The way they load them,
yeah, and then you can just pause and look around, and then you're just there and everything's going, and it never has like a loading screen or anything. Is from what we've seen from Unreal Engine 5 is one hell of an accomplishment. It makes me very excited to see what Xbox as a first party can continue to do with the work that Ninja Theory and the Coalition and Obsidian and Undead Labs are all doing in that engine. It is unbelievable.
And Halo Studios now.
But
yes, there you go. That is Senua Saga Hellblade 2. Awarded the coveted 10 out of 10 from me because I thought it was fucking brilliant. End of story. Go play it if you.
For us, 10 out of 10 is like pinnacle of its genre. We not perfect. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. We also don't do a lot of them. It's just some sites look at it like we can never do it. Like OXM was like, Halo 2, you can only have a 9.9. Sorry. They would not allow Ryan McCaffrey to give it a 10. You have to give it a 9.9. People lose their minds over a 10. It's like, it is the very best I've ever played, or right there with them in this genre. And I can fully see that with Hellblade 2.
Yeah. It's one of those 10s that I have no issue defending at all. I don't struggle to defend my 10.
Yeah, I've never actually had anyone say like no on any of them. Because there were so many for, like, the most recent one for me was Dragon Age. And there were so many for those, like, for that game. Yeah. Like, everyone I've done, there's been a lot of 10s, and people just end up going, okay. Yeah. But yeah.
Hey, it's an opinion, baby. But yes, if you want to play Senua Saga Hellblade 2, it's available now on Xbox Game Pass across PC and console. And cloud.
Yep, which is becoming bigger and bigger. Not the best, I would say not the best way to play it, but if you don't have a good gaming PC, and you don't have any type of Xbox, it is a way to play it.
Yeah. So, you know, jump in. And that's it. That's Hellblade 2.
All right. Well, thank you for that segment, John. Let's go on to either the next or the end of the show. I don't know. I'll figure it out later. Welcome back. I'm going to call this segment 2 of the November 2024 Day 1 Game Pass show, exclusively for you patrons. We are here once again. As segment 3, the final one, will have myself and John. We're talking Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which John and I have both played quite a lot of. I did the campaign review. We also had Fairy Empire, who did a zombies and multiplayer review. And John has played a lot of multiplayer, a lot of zombies, and I played some zombies. Because, John, this game's real good.
I think it's probably the best Call of Duty in quite some time, really, isn't it? in terms of an overall package.
Yeah, like Modern Warfare 2019 might be above on the campaign. I don't know. I like the variety in this one more, but the story might be better in 2019. But I did not like 2019's multiplayer nearly as much. I don't think Infinity Ward actually makes very good maps, and they feel better in this one. I've only played a little though.
Yeah, I feel like that's like 2019. I probably enjoyed the more realistic milsim style campaign.
You liked rewriting history and having not the Americans do the highway of death in Iraq,
right? And I quite like now, but I've got to give Black Ops 6 massive kind of kudos, because although it wasn't milsim in its approach, it was like a Michael Bay movie.
Yeah,
right? I mean, to a degree, all Call of Duty games are like that, but this one, as well as that kind of sensibility, it had this sheer variety of some impressive level kind of concepts, from a horror level with mannequins to and monsters to open world levels to heist style levels where you're flipping between characters, and it did lots and lots of different things, but it did all of them very well. And I think when we looked at your review, I think you pretty much concurred, right? This was a really solid adventure.
It was. So you've got the milsim, we're the military, hoorah, and then you've got the spycraft conspiracy. And I'm more into that spycraft conspiracy, so I really wanted to review this one more than either of the last couple Modern Warfares. Last three, really, even 2019. They take all of the systems that they've been making for these games. You've got your big old-fashioned campaign levels that are just big and bombastic and nutso. But then you've also got essentially a war zone mission where you're dropping into this big area, going and doing objectives in whatever order you want, clearing out an entire map, just having fun, using a friggin' car, driving people over. Very war zone. You've got the zombies mode where you are in this weird, creepy abandoned place full of weird, creepy drugs that make you see things as you're seeing zombies and you're seeing giant enemies and you're having to find all this stuff. You got a friggin' grappling hook, which is incredibly good feeling. And they nailed the tempo. Like, I never got bored, even though it was like it was almost 10 hours, which is pretty damn long for them. You've got a little bit of meta leveling because you've got a base that you go back to in between every mission. You've got some secrets in the base to find some very cool shit. There's like earning money and finding that in levels to bring back to upgrade. And for me, when I found $1,000, for some reason, it gave me 11 billion. And I do mean billion. My number said $11,250,000. So I just immediately bought every upgrade, and I felt like a god. I felt so goddamn strong. It was great.
Yeah.
That campaign is one of my more favorite things, because it was one I mostly streamed. Like, I streamed the first 2/3 of it because there was no early access, and everyone
you had to dive straight in.
Yeah, everyone watching was like, "This looks great." I was like, "It is. This is great."
Yeah. I actually really liked. Again, if you haven't played this yet, I'd be shocked, because it's Xbox is the most played platform for Call of Duty now. But the returning to the safe house and the fact that they strew loads of little mysteries and secrets to solve and open a big safe in the safe house itself, like that kind of extra stuff I love in games. Like, I love that kind of like little attention to detail and figuring out codes and clues. Very on brand with the whole Black Ops concept.
The numbers,
the numbers, Mason. But also the fact that you knew when they made this really ultra highly detailed safe house level, like straight away I was like, there's going to be a big fight here later. Like, straight away.
Yeah, because it had the whole outside. Like, you go outside, there's a ton of space in each direction. There's a whole freaking shooting range in one direction. You're like, yeah, I'm going to eventually be shooting people there.
Yeah,
and it did not disappoint.
No, it didn't. It was a solid campaign through and through.
I also, the trippy psychedelic Black Ops stuff was some of my favorite here in the later levels. It was a little silly because they always get silly. It gets very silly, but the actress was so committed to it. Like, in her voice, in her vocal performance, it was like, Sure.
I'll let this slide.
Yeah,
You know,
she
it's
is
fine.
giving it everything she has right now.
Yeah, and that, you know, as great the campaign is, and certainly if you're subscribing to Game Pass right now and thinking, "Oh, I haven't played COD in ages, do I?" You know, even just for the campaign, I think you'd have a really good time.
Yeah.
But the kicker here is not only have the team at Treyarch made a really good campaign, I think Raven helped as well. Multiplayer is really solid. I agree. You know, the maps. I'm perhaps I like some maps. Some maps I really despise. But I think the biggest issue in all of it is the spawns right now are still really bad.
That's
for
always
game modes.
that's always been a Call of Duty hallmark. Is hey, I've spawned in. Oh,
yeah.
just
There's a long-standing joke among our friendship group when COD 4 first came back in 2007. When we used to play as a big squad, it was always like, "Do not go past the bus," referring to the bus on, I think it was the level called the Bog. Don't go past the bus. So you'd force the enemy to just keep spawning over there. I always went past the bus because I'm a Leroy motherfucker that doesn't follow the rules. But that was me, and you definitely get that sense straight away here. You go past a certain point, boom, the spawns swap, and suddenly they're all behind you, and it's a mess. There's a lot of don't go past the bus mentality here in Black Ops 6 multiplayer, but it feels good. I like the Omni movement. I dislike fighting against it. I don't know. The best comparison I can make from a multiplayer perspective is you're in a firefight, and in Halo, as a comparison, strafing and bobbing like this in a firefight, irritating, right? Oh, how sweaty are you, you little try-hard? Call of Duty, people that like press B and just drop flat in mid-fight, and you're
Dolphin
like,
dive.
oh, yeah, irritates me. But it's par and parcel for the game. It's quick enough to get in and out, and fun enough that even though I get frustrated at constant die repeat and getting into that sort of repetitive sequence, I really enjoy playing it. And then you and I dived into zombies.
Yes, which I
haven't played since World at War.
Yeah. It is that big, crazy, over the top, just very repeatable. Hop in, gain a shot. We played one long ass round on a stream, and I think I went from level 1 to level 11 on the multiplayer account. Especially if you've got anyone who knows what they're doing, and you just make it last, and you don't kill the last zombie of a wave, and you go and do all the weird objectives. People seem pretty happy with it. They've got 2 maps now. It's very a really big, detailed, and thankfully one nice thing about this install is nowhere near as big as it has been in the past. You can play the entire campaign and only download like 70 gigs total instead of 250. You can have the campaign and the multiplayer installed, and it's like 110 or something, or 95. It's not a lot. I'm sure it'll go up over time with patches, but it's freaking Call of Duty. Everyone that was going to play it's already played it, but being in Game Pass means I don't normally buy Call of Duty every year, but hey, I can just hop in, I can play everything. And if you even if you just play Warzone, having Game Pass gets you 30% more experience in Warzone. Like there's they are going in, because if you own Call of Duty Black Ops 6 in any way, you get that buff, and Game Pass counts. So very highly recommend the campaign. I thought it was fantastic. I gave it an 8.5. Really solid, especially when the last couple of years would not have been anywhere near that.
No.
Multiplayer is not something I've really touched in Call of Duty much, because my brother always had the 360 in his room. But it's good. I haven't played much since Advanced Warfare, which I really liked, but it had the worst spawns maybe in any Call of Duty ever. Which is saying something, trust me. But they had no idea where, because the movement where you could do the squirty jumps in that one, like Titanfall-ish, just completely broke all their funneling systems. So you would just squirty jump up, and someone spawns behind you or in front of you every time. It was bad.
Bad times.
This game is fantastic. It is a very easy recommend to download on Game Pass. You can do the Vault upgrade if you get way into it and just want a bunch of skins and stuff. Always, I would say, hold off on any microtransactions until you know it's going to be a thing you really want. But it's not bad once you do. You get a fair amount of stuff with it. So,
and it's worth saying as well, if you're a lapsed Call of Duty player, or you're like, oh, I haven't got the skills, or I haven't got the friendship group online anymore, that's why we exist. XboxEra.com, gateway to our Discord community, discord.gg/XboxEra, and our forums. There's a good group of people now that always want to play and have fun together. So I would certainly say if you're looking for more pals to play on Xbox, if you're one of the Xbox dad contingents that, is in your 30s, late 30s, early 40s, and they're like, oh, I don't have the time to be, good anymore. Come join us.
Yeah, you'll get into the lower MMRs.
Together. Yeah. There'll be one. We'll have one person on the team that's young and will carry us.
The team SBMM will be at your rank. You'll be good.
Yes. Yeah, it'll be good times. But yeah, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 available now, and all Call of Duties in the future on Xbox Game Pass.
All right. That is the end of segment 2. We'll be right back to talk about S.T.A.L.K.E.R, Heart of Chernobyl.
Hello, friends, and welcome to whatever segment this is of the Day One Game
Third
Pass show.
and final.
Well, there you go. As I'm joined by Jesse to talk about S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, Heart of Chernobyl, which recently released on Xbox Game Pass for PC, console, and cloud, as well as on Steam. The reviews are out in the wild, including yours, Jess, and it's had some mixed response, but I think there's a bit more to the story here. So, S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, tell me what you thought so far.
So originally, I had a S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 review thumbnail made, and as you probably saw, not too long in, I ended up asking Predrag, hey, this game's a little hot, but they are promising patches that are going to fix a lot of it. So can you give me a review in progress thumbnail, please? Which he was very nice to quickly do. And then I didn't end up using it because they did get the patch in. I'll show the fine folks. Here's what it was gonna be, because I think this type of review in progress is probably what a lot of these reviews should have been if they were unable to, like I did, get to this game and just start going over it post Monday and Tuesday's patch, because S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 is fantastic. It was broken as shit when we first got it. So the timeline on this game, which is a follow-up to the original trilogy, which had been on PC to start and now is on consoles with the Heroes of the Zone trilogy you can get. You are taking place in a version of Ukraine that had 2 Chernobyl explosions. One, the one we know of in the 80s, and then a second one when they were doing experiments around there in the year 2006 that created the Zone, which is this big 64 squared kilometer map. Like, it is enormous. That's why the game is such a big install. Area full of supernatural phenomena and energy. And so you're coming in as a guy who had his entire apartment blown up by a anomalous activity, which is not supposed to happen outside of the Zone.
A MacGuffin.
It's not even a MacGuffin. It literally, you find out exactly what happened and why, and it's satisfying. It feels good because there's an artifact which just appears in your kitchen and blows it up, and the entire side of your house is gone, and it looks great. And that is the opening of the game, essentially. You're sneaking your way in to try and figure out what the hell is going on as you try and recharge this artifact to see what it is. And you go from there after some shit happens. And for the next, I think most people, 50 to 60 hours if you're playing on S.T.A.L.K.E.R difficulty, 30 to 50 if you're playing on Rookie, and if you want to 100% it, 200 hours, you are going to be experiencing something unique. I always want to put a qualifier on unique, but that's not the way the word works. It is an experience pretty much like no other, in the sense that it is a military sim survival horror open world shooter. Now, it's not hardcore mil sim, it's like more simcade, if you would. It is forgiving when it needs to be to not be overly frustrating. But if you're playing on the regular difficulty, which I think is the way to go if you feel at all confident that you can get one shot in the head. You can be taken out in a split second if you're not prepared and if you're not careful. It's not a fast game on normal difficulty.
Take your time, and it's got none of the trappings of, I would say, modern first-person shooters. In that, there's no hand-holding at all. I think the most you'll get is like a little white marker that someone's seen you. That's it. That's as much hand you are. Someone knows you're there.
You get red on. So you've got a little compass above you, and it goes red. Once you've seen people and they're close enough, you will get a little indicator for them. But you got to be very close, and by that point, they might have taken like half of your health with a couple of shots. There is no leveling in the game. It is entirely I need to go and find better loot out in the world. The loot is how you level, and a big thing about the game is you can't carry that much. Like, you have to leave stuff behind, which is actually how you find a lot of your gear. It's because other people had too much shit and they had to leave it behind. It's like central. It's a core tenet of the game and the way it works. Like, if you don't take your time, if you, as the footage was just showing, walk into anomalies and let them take most of your health, like, you'll always have your trusty little rusty bolts to toss into anomalies to activate them. Then they're gone for about a second or two, and you can make it through. It is just this giant open world that has a little tiny bit of Metroidvania in when you can go to places based on the story. But a lot of it, like once you're into the second area, you can hit half the map and just start finding stuff. But people are going to be super strong, and you're still going to have weak gear. So if you can kill a couple of them, you can get a nice gun, but those guns are almost always broken because everything in the zone degrades quickly. So you've got to repair and you've got to prepare. Like, they are considered expeditions. Like, okay, I'm going to do this mission here on the map. You go, like, I have to have my ammo, my shit prepared, because I can't fix anything I have until I come back to a town like this. So you always have to make sure you are ready to go, because once
a thinking man's first-person shooter.
Yeah, once your stuff is broken, it's going to jam all the time, and if your guns jam, you have to press reload again, and then you get a long animation of him getting the spent cartridge that gets stuck out. But if things are fixed, they work great, and away you go, and it can take a while for it to break. Ammo can be hard to find, so sometimes it is just best to run, especially if you're fighting the very many mutants, as you see on the screen here, because the mutants are really hard fights. Sometimes you can't avoid them, but they don't drop anything. So if you can not fight them, don't. And the game is like, yeah, there are times to fight, there are times to not, and it's got a surprisingly good story. That is one thing I vehemently disagree with some people I read online. There's choices to make. Those choices greatly alter the world, who's still around, who likes you, who hates you. There are factions you're working rep with, but there isn't there's no UI for it. It's all feel and talking, and it'll be like, okay, these guys hate you now. So you got to do jobs for them to make them happy again. Because I accidentally killed a scientist because I threw a grenade and he was behind a wall hiding from the guy that was trying to kill the two of us, and the grenade hit him and he got really pissed at me. We didn't die. But yeah, it's just...
I would say if you're perhaps not invested in having, I joked, I think earlier on, not this show, but a previous show, where I said it was the Dark Souls of first-person shooters. And if you're like me with no interest in absolutely having your... I'm trying to think of a politically correct phrase, but I can't. Absolutely having your ass kicked on a regular basis. This might not be for you, I think is fair to say, right? Absolutely give it a go. Like, I've played it, a little bit of it, but also I am one of those people that missed the press this button to turn on your torch. I'm stumbling around the sewers at the beginning of the game. I'm like,
it's literally the first.
What is this?
So it is black. The first prompt you get is right bumper for your flashlight, but if you move forward, it turns off. So you moved, you moved forward and it turned off before you saw it. The same thing happened to me.
And I was like, what do I do? I can't see anything. It was, and when we say this game is dark, it is dark.
Yeah,
it's
the
not
darkness
like, hey,
is
everything's
dark.
blue.
You can't see. Yeah.
You can't see.
No. It's got really good HDR though, so if your screen has good HDR, it looks amazing. And rookie mode is there, and I think in rookie mode you don't have to worry about it as much. There are going to be times where it's like, oh, I didn't realize this was going to be a big fight and all my shit's broken. I was still able to get through it by going to rookie mode for a couple of, because I also had it just break on me and I had to go into rookie mode occasionally to get through things that just weren't working correctly. But you guys, as I mainly pointed out, I dedicated a large part of my review to the fact that I and other reviewers were mainly playing a version of the game that no one else is ever going to see. Like, yeah. And that is always tough, and it happens a lot, but it really happened here. I tried to mitigate that by coming back to it on Monday, seeing it. I beat it again on Monday after the big 139 gig patch. And then they patched it again on Tuesday with the 37 gig patch. And I played through it for another 5 hours. And that's when I really went from review in progress to, yeah, I'm just sticking, instead of a 7, or it was going to be like a 6 on the review in progress for the previous version, it ended up becoming a final 8.4 because those patches really did work some magic. So if you've read, this game is a buggy mess, it was. They weren't lying. They just might not have played post Monday and probably especially post Tuesday. Because one advantage we do have is we do everything ourselves on our reviews. Only Chengus and Fairy just write and give footage. Myself, John, Ursula, and Nick, we write, narrate, and video edit our own stuff that we play.
True story.
So we can jump right back in and fix stuff, finish stuff late. Whereas other sites, and IGN to their credit, are just doing review in progress because they do have this whole red tape system to go through where this guy played it, most of them can narrate it and they write it, but then they've got to go into a video editor to have the video done. It's got to go through their reviews editor to be double checked on everything, whereas we are all right there in the Discord doing it pretty quickly and not on like a 9-to-5 job schedule.
I also think, there is a conversation to be had about how it's the nature of it's kind of like the respect the hustle thing, right? There's the nature of video game websites now in that if you don't get your review out on time at the right time, you're probably not going to get any clicks, right? So many of them are going to take I'm reviewing what I got to play. That's the end of my job. I think the bigger ones like IGN are able to say, we're big enough, people will read our review even if we post it on Friday next week because we own everything. And they can afford to take that extra gamble and wait. And I think, again, that speaks to our agility in that, and our the fact that we kind of wear many hats, that you were able to go in and spend, 5-6 hours, post all the patches to like, hey, can I actually deliver a verdict on this now? Is this still broken? Is this still broken? And actually be honest about it. Which is a good thing. I think, review in progress is something I wish a lot of the other sites that had just blanketly said this is broken.
Yeah, that's what I ended up doing with Outlaws because it broke on me. I could not actually finish it. And then the patch hit and on release, and I was able to finish it and came back and gave it the final score. Still a good game, by the way. One of my favorite things about S.T.A.L.K.E.R really is also just the gunplay. I think is amazing, and I read a review where it's like the gunplay's weak. I'm like, no, it's not. Again, just opinions. I think the gunplay is phenomenal because it is that appropriate mix of fun video game shooting, but you can't just lay into people with little recoil and everything just works the way you want, like a Call of Duty. It is very, I need to pick my shots. I need to ping people in the head because if I do that, they go right down. Even with like a little pistol, if the guy doesn't have any armor on and I ping him in the eyeball, he's just out. And it's great.
Yeah.
It is a stunning looking game at times, especially since I've gone to PC now, where at first it did not look or run very good on Xbox. It still doesn't run anywhere near 60 most of the time. As you can see in this clip of this man's head disappearing, it had a lot of really weird visual bugs, which I'm sure there are still plenty of on both console and PC, but it is a lot better. The texture materials are... There's a reason this game is 150 plus gigabytes, and it's because they don't reuse a lot of textures all the time. Like, it looks great and varied. Like, it looks very different depending on where you are. Even though it's all in this part of the Ukraine, things have changed quite a lot because of the anomaly in the zone. Areas look completely different depending on the weather, depending on the time of day. The lighting and the weather systems are top tier. Like, a lot of this game might feel AA. The English voiceover is okay. It's no Metro, which was terrible. Thankfully, it's like a mix of really bad, mostly okay, and occasionally very good. I would wholeheartedly recommend, if you are able to play and read, to play with the original Ukrainian voice dub. It just makes it feel so much more like this type of game to me.
Feels more like the sense of place is
the immersion is through the roof, because instead of having this weird mishmash of American, Irish, UK, European, Australian accents that they threw in, everyone is Ukrainian, like it's supposed to be. It just makes sense. Like, everyone's from this area and lives around it, and it gives it this gravitas and this feeling that it kind of loses otherwise. But it can be hard to play and read, so I get it, anyone who just wants to stick to English and not have to use subtitles all the time. I can't recommend it enough. If you have any interest in it, just know, if you're going to have patience, Stalker mode is the best mode. It is what the game is meant to feel like. It is meant to be terrifying and hard, and it's a world and a game that is unforgiving on purpose. Like, it is what they are going for. Otherwise, you can do rookie mode, and I think most people will be able to get through the game just fine on that, especially as they keep patching it, as they're already talking about. The only other issue that we ran into, John ran into it as well, if you do not have a Hall Effect joystick controller, you're going to get some drift on console right now, because they've got the dead zone set way too low. So it moves the instant you move. And they need to just tweak it a little bit so that you got to move your stick a little and then it moves, like just a little tiny bit. You can play mouse and keyboard on console, which means you can also do it on the cloud. So if you have that type of setup, you can play through the cloud. It is not cross-buy. I think it might be cross-save.
Yes.
On the Windows Store version on PC. So if you own like the Ultimate Edition on Xbox, I don't know that you'll get the stuff from the Ultimate Edition on PC, but you will have your save. You might get it. I honestly don't know. Didn't get to test that because that version was not up ever, and they gave me an Xbox code. So this game is a triumph, I would say. After everything that the devs have gone through with the war in the Ukraine, losing people that worked on the game in the fighting there, like it is a ridiculous. It was supposed to be out 3 years ago. The support that Xbox gave was amazing. Like, it is the type of thing to, like, obviously, and they're just a giant company, but there's people, and there were people there who had to make this decision, because until today, no one really knew, well, what is this game going to do? Turns out it sold 1 million copies in a day or two, and they said had much more on Game Pass. So, like, it's not on the biggest platform yet. I'm sure it'll come to PlayStation eventually. The devs talked about it before. It's like, we had this deal to be on this platform, and it was going to be really hard for us to just get it out on essentially 3 platforms. So, but I do think it should eventually come to everything over time. And if it does, you should play it, because Stalker 2 is up there as one of my favorite gaming experiences. It's hard to overstate how unique a Stalker game is, because before they were this idea in this really cool thing, and you had to sort of in your head imagine this is what it was going to be like, because the tech wasn't there yet and the graphics weren't there, and it was infinitely more broken and buggy than this build is. But now you see it. You see the graphics of what they were going for. You see the gameplay they were trying to go for. Like, this is if you are a fan of the franchise at all, it's a 10. Like, it is your dream Stalker game. So you should play it.
There you go. Well, thank you, Jesse, for telling us all about Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl. As you've said many times, it's available now on Xbox Game Pass, PC, console, and cloud, and on Steam. So, hey, if you've got a Game Pass subscription, jump right in. We'll be back with whatever's next, or this could be the last bit.
This is the end of the November 24th Dayone Game Pass show, just for you, our beloved patron members at $6 and above. We will be back next month with a we'll have a little talk about a little adventure game you might be reviewing, John.
Yeah, we'll do a little adventure game.
We're probably gonna be talking about that one a lot next month. Try and have a round table, talk about it on here, probably talk about it on the podcast, talk about it on headlines. We're gonna talk a lot about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. But until then, we'll see you next time. We try and do these monthly at the very least. And ciao for now, everybody.
Best.
Yeah.
Bye.